One of the Sunday papers ran a feature on Edgar Malroy, his metaphysical betting shop, the riverside siege in which his family had been wiped out, and the recent assassination attempt by Sophia Alderson. When he was asked about Miss Alderson, all Edgar Malroy would say was this: "She's a little mixed up, but she means well, really." Edgar Malroy was also asked what the strangest metaphysical bet he had ever taken had been. Edgar said that he'd once written out a £500,000 IOU for a supermarket trolley betting on the existence of God. The chief rabbi, Dr. David Hollick, made a visit to the metaphysical betting shop and spent £500 on the bet that life is a gift of God and is to be lived in utter obedience to God for its fullest consummation. A week later, there was another high-profile visit to the metaphysical betting shop. The head of the Methodists, Dr. Brian Jones, and a number of his ministers spent the morning being shown around, talking to the pretty women that worked behind the booths, sipping cups of coffee, and betting a total of £3,000 of church funds on various nutty things. There was another photo call outside the metaphysical betting shop, and Edgar was photographed shaking Dr. Jones's hand and smiling, holding in his other hands the cheque made out to the metaphysical betting shop for £3,000. Edgar Malroy said of Dr. Jones that he was one of the nicest nuts he had ever met. Muslim clerics from all over the country began requesting audiences with Edgar Malroy and spent larger and larger sums of money on bets. Leaders of the Hindu religion followed. To everyone, Edgar Malroy was a polite and courteous host, smiling, shaking hands, and making sure everyone was having a good time. He told everyone who placed a bet that he thought them to be quite nuts, but told them this in such a nice way. People let it pass. So many religious leaders felt obliged to call into the metaphysical betting shop that newspaper and TV crews set up semi-permanently outside on the grass amid the 35 species of counted wildflowers. Edgar Malroy made sure that the media was well looked after, sending a number of his girls out to them with cups of coffee and slices of fruitcake. Edgar Malroy himself became a little media sensation. 2 days before the summer solstice, the head druid made an appearance at the metaphysical betting shop. Edgar took his money and told him what he thought of him. After that, seven chieftains of the Sothos Tswana people, who had flown in especially from southern Africa to make their bet, spent £3,045 on the bet that Modimo is one, supreme, the owner and master of all invisible and intangible. The next day, a delegation of Japanese Shinto priests flew in and bet £3,500 that the two mysterious powers of nature, Kami Izanagi and Kami Izanami, created the terrestrial world and the sun god Amaterasu. A week later, over 200 lamas from Tibet, who had organised a coach trip all the way to the metaphysical betting shop, spent a total of £19,000. This coach trip was followed by a very high-profile visit by the 16th Dalai Lama on the 8th of September 2023. Edgar tried to visit Sophia in her mental institution, but she refused to see him. Edgar took this badly and had to cancel a lucrative meeting with 32 American Baptist ministers. The 16th Dalai Lama bet £6,000 that there is no self lying behind the constituent parts of a person. When Edgar Malroy handed the Dalai Lama his badge, and its message was translated for him by one of his followers, the Dalai Lama found it so funny that he collapsed in a heap on the floor and an ambulance was called. The incident was in all the papers and really put Edgar's betting shop on the map. The Dalai Lama had laughed so hard at George Mills Jr.'s funeral that his false teeth had fallen out. The Dalai Lama got better. Towards the end of his 2023 tour, Pope John even made a visit to Edgar's metaphysical betting shop. This is what happened. The Pope-mobile, barely able to squeeze down the street, came to an abrupt stop outside the metaphysical betting shop. The cockpit canopy was opened and the Pope leapt onto the road, undoing as he did so the World War II leather flying helmet he was wearing. It was at this moment that the 300 priests, 400 nuns, 300 members of various religious orders, 350 members of the Central Security Office and 200 Polacs armed Swiss guards, not to mention the hundreds of devout Catholics and the media, caught up with the Pope-mobile. Everyone was wearing yellow Macintoshes. The Pope ran up the steps of the metaphysical betting shop and was greeted at the entrance by Edgar Malroy, who was leaning against the doorframe. He was wearing a t-shirt that had written on it, "There is no game in the world like pursuing men to save them." They stepped inside and the Pope made his £25,000 bet in 1 minute flat and was running down the steps of the ancient church to the Pope-mobile, a path being made for him by the priests, nuns, security men and Swiss guards through the press, the adoring Catholics and the curious public. There was a backward wave to Edgar Malroy, then Pope John fastened his flying helmet back on his sacred head and sped off. He had a tight schedule, and after him raced a multitude of people completely drenched with holy water. It was at this point, with the grounds of the metaphysical betting shop almost empty of the Pope's supporters, that Sophia Alderson, who had been allowed out of Ringthorpe House to see the Pope, made her second attempt on Edgar Malroy's life.